Hi there. So I have a lot to report on, basically. Um, Social services and my sister's third kid. I have a lot to report on, and I feel like this is just going to be a very, very long video. That um, I also feel well, it's like 11:30, so it's quite late. But yeah. Anyway, I guess the backstory is she had a kid and then went into a 6 week or 3 month program, and after nearly completing it, near the end of it, she failed and she got pregnant like 2 weeks later. I guess I've always been skeptical about this guy because he knew that Sophie had just failed a parenting exam, a very expensive luxury parent exam, and I can imagine my sister being just like, "Oh, it's not my fault. They were very picky, and just acting like she didn't have a chance when really it was a very big chance." And to be honest, my opinion about that is that she never needed that because she was going to fail either way. She's not capable of looking after a child by herself. Now, to look after a child by yourself, you have to be willing to do all the night feeds, all the every time the child starts crying, you have to be, there and attentive. And every time the child starts drooling, and regular nappy changes. And, you know, my sister has, sometimes she's interested and she's a good parent, and sometimes she's not, and that's the problem. You can't be like this if there's only one of you. If there's one of you, you need to be maybe not 100% of the time, but 90% of the time, you need to be attentive. Like if you want to be on the internet and have the child next to you, that's fine. But you can't just say, I'm just going to take a rest, or I'm going to miss a night feed tonight. You can't do things like that. And if you're not a responsible person, then you cannot do it. So I don't even know why they put her in the mother baby unit, because she would have done fine, being monitored and watched, and prompted. If there was like cameras making sure that she does the night feeds, she needed that, because without the camera, she probably wouldn't have done that. Now, what's the point of putting someone through a £50,000 expensive, long month training if the only reason why she's doing all of this is because she's being watched? Because the second she leaves that place, she's not going to do all these things. She's only doing it because she's being sort of prompted, guided. If you in a relationship and you got one that really cares about the child and is prompting and encouraging, I'll wake up at 2, make the bottle, and then I'll pass it on to you, and you just have to feed. You'll do that, and I'll do the 10 o'clock and the 5 o'clock, but at 2 o'clock I'm going to wake up and make sure you're awake. You need someone who's like that, like someone who really is a good parent. And my sister could not have done it by herself. And yeah, I can imagine her just being completely in denial about it. And anyway, when it came to this guy, I don't know too much about him. I have found out a lot more now, but I didn't know that much about him before. And because of the stress of Sophie getting pregnant, making me excited about a baby for a second time, and only to have social services fail me for no reason that's true, for no true reason, and then say that I can't look after the child so they can make money out of this child. They're making huge amounts of money. The amount of meetings, daily, it's almost daily meetings. Like next week we'll they have like weekly meetings where there's like, well, with the other one it was about 8 per weekly meeting. And then there was just lawyers and solicitors, and everyone just having lots and lots of meetings, and then pre-meetings before court meetings, and then having court meetings every few months. And it's the amount of money and time and effort and resource that would have gone into this, and it's just ridiculous, because I think these people are stupid. I think these people are really stupid. And I feel I understand with Sophie. I felt more anger, not over the fact that Sophie was given all these tests, but the fact that she was clearly going to fail it. My mum says, oh, she was set up to fail. No, she wasn't set up to fail. She was going to fail either way, because she could not do it by herself. So even if she did pass and was successful at the 3 months, if the only reason why she's successful at that 3 month test is because she was being watched and monitored and prompted, and then you don't need that thing. I mean, if this was like, I don't know how you could afford to do that with lots and lots of people. You really can't. I think it'd be fair to say it should be like a week. If there's one place in England where all the bad or the mothers under, single mothers that are being suspected of not doing all the nightly feeds and stuff, put them in a week, put them in some sort of testing thing for a week, and if and don't wake them up. If don't do anything, don't do nothing, just see how they are, and if you find that you have to keep waking them up, then they have failed the test, and then you have to take the child off them and say, you know what, you failed this test. We think you can't do it. We're going to either wait 6 months or a year. I think that the worst thing about it is they keep saying, my sister keeps thinking that in a few months' time I'll get it, in a few months' time, or even a month's time. They're supposed to be, the final hearing was supposed to be in July, and it's now been pushed back. And I'm swear, like back in Christmas, she was saying that it's going to be like April, May, and just every month they seem to be pushing it back. And it's almost like they're just having more and more meetings to just drag this out, try and, and the meetings are just boring. They don't say anything. It's like the AJ Miller, where he's just talking and talking and talking, but he's not actually giving any information. The information that you need is the character profile, of what these people are like. And anyway, with this new child, I didn't know much about the father. I guess he was a churchgoer, and I'm really against religion, so I was skeptical, and he doesn't believe that I'm God. I know he's been a bit critical, not critical, but just like, oh, don't be silly, like, oh, that's just, no, I don't want anything to do with that. Like he would play it like that, and therefore I guess I'm not really a fan. But I've met him, and I really feel like I've worked, because that's what I was doing. I was working out the important things. How much does he care about the child? How much does he worry? If I was looking after the child and something happened, and how devastated would he be? And if the answer is a high score, then he's doing a good job, and that is how I felt. So this is a completely different situation to this time last year. This time last year, the dad had passed away, and Sophie was on her own, and there's no way she could have done that. So that was a very different scenario to this one. Now you've got two parents, one that's shit. She was doing a lot better this time. She was making the child look more comfortable. She was being a bit more motivated and a bit more mature about it, and she was better. But I still don't think she should be left alone with a child. Maybe 15 minutes. I think 15 minutes. If Marco wants to go, there's an Iceland across the road. If he wants to go there to just get some milk and come back, I think Sophie is definitely fine with a short-term thing, because she's it's good. It's just after 45 minutes, it's almost like she goes tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. What do I do? What do I do? There's basically, Marco is working and has one day that he goes to work, and I was thinking I'll come down, look after this child, as the supervisors. They said that Sophie could not be alone with the child, but she can have to be alone with the child if she's supervised. So I was going to act as the supervisor, and everything was going fine until 12 o'clock, when Marco got a call, because they found out that I was the supervisor, and I haven't gone through all the checks. They need to do all the checks on me. They need to give me lots of tests, and then they need to make money out of me. I can't be a supervisor if they can't make money out of me. So they need to find a way of making money out of me. And so saying that I can't, I was furious. I was so furious, literally. I could feel the anger coming out of me. It's like you're guilty until proven innocent. So if you want to be a supervisor of your own sister and her baby, you have to go through their authority. Now, this is frustrating to me. Why? Because Marco is a good dad. Every time I saw him pick up the child, I felt a strong amount of love. And I, David Guetta, there was a really good picture of him on Instagram with this baby on his lap, and I think he said something about, this is how I should always sleep, or something. I don't know, that it was something about, I can't remember what he said. But it's yeah, that picture looked really good, and it just reminded me of that. Like, he had so much affection for this really cute child, and he's trustworthy. He's trustworthy. You know that he's not going to leave the child alone with Sophie. He recognizes that Sophie is probably worse than what he thought, but he was warned by the social services. I'm glad the social services were involved, because they did need to warn him that Sophie's not, because when Sophie lost custody of her first child, I kind of thought it was more George that was pushing it, and I never saw her really with that child, so I never understood what was the problem. I never saw it, and all the tests that she had that she failed were all done without me being there, without me seeing the child, without me seeing her, and I didn't understand it. I was warned because of you know her going to Brighton and not coming back and stuff. And I feel like that's something you don't do. If you go off to Brighton and you say, "Oh, I'll see the child in 6 months," that's fine. But, that's not something you would say about a child you've just given birth to. So, I knew that there was something wrong there. But so I was aware, but I didn't think it would be as bad as it was. No way. And I think Marco didn't realize until he's seen it. So, but yeah, now that he has seen it, I'm 100% sure that he is going to do what's best for the child, and the relationship's still there. It's still there, and it's time will tell how long it lasts. But I know that he loves the kid, and social services should have more trust for him over the scenario, because they are treating him like he's guilty, like he's just as bad as, or like he could be. And it made me realize that being a social services worker is so dangerous. It's like swimming in a deep, deep sea. Now they're in this sea to try and find the sharks. The sharks are the bad ones that are going to kill or hurt the kids or whatever. So they're in this deep water trying to find the sharks. And they're thinking they're doing a good job, but the majority of the time they're not actually swimming around sharks. They're swimming around dolphins, they're swimming around fish, they're swimming around tortoises, they're swimming around nice animals. And because of some sort of protocol, and this needs to be this, they have to listen to their bosses who have been in social services longer. The bosses are going to be the ones that have been in social services for a long period of time, and the newbies are the ones that are just trying to do right by their boss and stick to protocol and stuff. But majority of the time they're not going to be dealing with the sharks. They're going to be dealing with good parents. My sister's really, really bad, and why she even got the test doesn't even make sense to me, because I realized within a couple of days how bad she was, and I knew she wasn't going to do it by herself. So therefore, having a 3 month test was stupid, because after she would still be by herself, so she would still not do it. Um, but yeah, and then this guy is nothing like that. I can see why they'd be similar. They have similarities, just like me and Jason. We both like partying, we both like going out, we both liked, he was fun, he was a fun person, but we both have different abilities when it comes to caring for kids. I think I'd be very much like protective, and if he is starting to get his drinks out, I would be like, get away from me. And I guess that's what happened to how he lost custody with the other kids. But I would be like that, and to have social services do to me what they've done to him, I'd be furious. They're meetings all the time. He's got solicitors, and then they always make meetings, and then he has to cancel. They had a meeting at 10:30, and then he had a solicitors meeting on that time, so he had to cancel the solicitors meeting only to see this other one, and then they changed it, and they said it's not at 10:30, it's 11:30, so he could have had the solicitors meeting because of the change. And then when they had the 11:30, it turned out that only one of them realized that the change had been made, and the other one hadn't realized the changes were made. So she was trying to contact them at 10:30 and couldn't get through. And then these sort of things happen, and then the majority of the conversation is just them flapping around with technology. Have you got the sound? Yep, you got. And then the conversation is completely boring and dire. So, and it's very the tone of it is very bland, very dumb. It reminds me of uni, with people not having a clue what they're doing, but just trying to come up with some really boring meeting that's not helpful, and it's causing stress. And he's also he is started to work. He probably shouldn't have worked so soon, but he's working from home, and he's probably not good, but at the same time he's very good at multitasking. I think he's very good at multitasking. I was surprised the baby was clucking away and making sounds. The baby would be at Lucy's, but because I was there, I was kind of acting as a supervisor with him on the computer, doing stuff. But he was able to, get the feeds in time and cook for everyone and on the computer. And it's like, how are you doing all these things at the same time? I was just getting distracted by the baby. I was trying to be on the computer, but every 5 minutes it's like, baby, no, baby, and then I was, yeah. Because of that, I feel like I'm glad in a way that I didn't have Leo right at the beginning. I always thought I would have, maybe Sophie could look after, if Sophie could just keep the child okay for the first 3 months, and maybe I could take on from there. But after I saw her with the child, I was like, she's not going to be able to do that. And then, they're very, very fragile in the first few months, and I know that I'm doing stuff on the internet and stuff, and therefore to have Leo in the first 3 months I think would have been hard for me, because I wouldn't have been able to focus on the Illuminati stuff that I'm doing and all the inspiration of what I'm doing. But I really would have liked him to would have been able to have him after 3 months, because he wouldn't have needed that hourly attention. I mean, I would have had him there next to me, but although apparently he's my mum said that he's going through a temper tantrum phase, so I can imagine there'd be a lot of screaming and stuff. But I still don't agree with the decision that what happened. I'm really angry over what happened to me still, because I don't understand why I failed, and how this could happen, because you can't fail people that are perfectly capable, have no end. But anyway, with this one, let's talk about this one. I was absolutely furious how they made him go from work back to the house to pick the child up and take him to Lucy's, just because they hadn't given the approval for me. Now, this guy is a perfectly good father, and he should have the rights to say if he thinks an auntie is good enough to look after the child, is responsible enough to look after the child. But the fact that the social services refused to let that happen, I was fuming. I took it personally. I felt it was like, if you've been looking after a child, doing night feeds, staring at this child, really happy that you're, looking after this child and with this child, and then for social services to butt in and think that they have the rights to say that you're not safe when they don't know you. This is not your child, social services. This is not your child, social services. Can you back off? Okay, I know you've got proof that Sophie could not do it, but you've got proof that Sophie could not do it. You have not got proof that I can't do it. Therefore, you should not be butting in on people's lives and saying that they can't do it when there's no proof that they can't do it. If you've made some sort of arrangement that Sophie should not be alone with the child, then fine. That's because Sophie's lack of ability. Now, if you've done it to me, that makes no sense. I mean, he made out that it was because I got a bad report from the other social services, but I should not have got a bad report from the social services, because I did not do anything wrong. They did not see with a child. Nothing. And I am really furious that this behavior is happening. And it's not just that. It's these constant meetings, constant boring talk. And of course, I wasn't allowed to be in the. They had another, like, official court case, one where it would be illegal for me to listen in or hear over. So I'm going to give you what my mum said. Going to give you the views on what my mum said, even though she's an idiot. Let's ignore that part. But yeah, no profiling whatsoever. Sophie and Marco did not speak throughout the whole of this. My mum did not have a solicitor, so she was allowed to speak, but my mum is batty as hell, and she was just going on about how, oh, you're going to do this person has only had a one-day course in autism, and going on about the importance of this person who was going to do some sort of a test, but he'd only done a one day autism test or whatever. That makes no sense. I mean, maybe he's got a sister who's autistic. Just because you've only got a 1-day course in autism, that doesn't mean that you don't know anything about autism. I've not had any courses in autism, and yet I know a lot about autism. So I don't know. My mom's she just focuses on rubbish, absolute rubbish, and yeah. So it was bad. It was bad. There was no what else what was said? There were I wrote down a few things that she's told me, but yeah, there was so that they need to do a test. So they did a test for Leo. Both of them did a 6-week long stretched out where they would have made a ton of money from it, stretched out report on Leo, and they both failed. They did a long stretched out report from a different council on this new kid, and they both passed. And then they had a court case where they were going to say that they should have this new child and that they shouldn't have this daily bugging, basically. There's people coming every single day. They've been doing it for 5-6 weeks now. They should trust this guy. I could tell that this guy was a decent, good parent just from the first hour. I could tell within an hour. And so to think that these people are coming every single day and treating this guy like he's just as bad as Sophie, when he's really, really not, I think it's completely frustrating and very, very annoying. Anyway, I'm going to stop and make another video because this is 20 minutes long.